U.S.
रानी, इस घर में कुछ है जो टूटता नहीं।
ये पिलर कभी नहीं टूटेगा। रुंगटा स्टील टीएमटी से बना।
रुंगटा नहीं तो घर स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं। रुंगटा स्टील टीएमटी बार एकदम सॉलिड।
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद, यही तो है इसकी खास बात।
वाओ मामा, क्या स्वाद है।
अरे मेरे राजा,
मसाला।
يا نعش اللي يشيل الشيعة سرتنا طاح المرتفع.
This is about the story of Exodus, and from Exodus to assertion. This is about the unfinished story of Kashmir. Kashmir is not just geography, it is history, it is pain, it is perseverance. And above all, it is Bharat. From exile to empowerment, from silence to assertion, the journey of Kashmir is still unfolding. And to speak on this deeply emotional and national issue, we welcome author, activist, and a powerful voice of truth, Mr. Sushil Pandit. Big round of applause, please.
Namaskar to all. It's an honor, it's a privilege to be amongst you. Thank you, Republic, for this opportunity. I come back to Kashmir after years of talking about it. And I want to make three specific points. First and foremost, we do harp on history for a lot of our failings in the past. Even the challenges of today go back to the events of history. And it is impossible to not refer to the days of colonialism, which just mentioned by Air Marshal Kapoor. And it's not just about two centuries. It goes back even further beyond when we recall invasions of the last 1,000 years. And we are faced with those challenges that these invasions and the colonial history literally forced us into. Kashmir begins in, the tragedy of Kashmir begins in the 14th century. And the relentless conversion, hemorrhaging over about 5 centuries, 480 years to be precise, from 1339 to 1819, the native population of Kashmir, which was Sanatani, which was Hindu, which was civilizationally linked to India, India linked to Kashmir is more like it, dwindled. The population mass by 1819, who could call themselves Hindu, of the native faith, the native culture, were barely in double digits. I'm talking about the valley. Till Maharaja Ranjit Singh liberated us from the Afghan rule. Now, the most often heard reason, we are told, is that Kashmir was a remote valley high up in the Himalayas. We in India did not have a single state to protect its borders and people. We didn't have a strong enough standing army. We were splintered across small kingdoms who did not share the vision of one big nation, as it were, even if it was one big civilization and culture. We didn't have the mechanisms, the tools, the technology to defend ourselves. But that was true till 1947, should have been. What happened in 1990 was a bit of an anachronism. We had 90 crore population under one state, 800 elected parliamentarians in a very powerful parliament, a prime minister who was responsible for the entire country, 1.5 million strong armed forces, a Supreme Court, dozens of high courts, and hundreds, thousands of session courts and magisterial courts, a large police network, paramilitary, a lively press, and yet more than 400,000 people were driven out of Valley in a matter of weeks for only one reason, that they refused to compromise their patriotism, their faith, their allegiance to this country. These were not medieval times. This happened barely 36 years ago. How do you explain this? That's point number one. And I want to make this a reality check for us. We've heard wonderful things from Air Marshal Kapoor, and they're all true, and it gives us tremendous hope and confidence as we look at future. But we need to bear in mind this fact also as we talk about future. Another reality check. This exodus, this genocide, this ethnic cleansing, choose your description for it, remains unacknowledged, unpunished, and unreversed in the last 36 years. We let it happen in 1990 itself is a bit of a challenge to any sane person in this day and age. but to understand and realize that we are not even willing to acknowledge this happened. We call them migrants, as if they moved on their own. And no, it's not just an allusion to it. When we moved National Human Rights Commission in 1994 with a petition that it's been more than 4 years and the government hasn't come out with a very clear-cut policy or even acknowledgement of what happened to us and what they wish to do about us. A notice was sent to the government, and in 1999, when Justice Venkatachalaya eventually gave his observations and called it akin to genocide, the response of the government in an affidavit was that they moved out of Kashmir on their own. This is the kind of state we are dealing with. It's on record. No wonder 13 governments and 9 prime ministers later, and these governments and prime ministers are of all hues, all ideologies, all parties, all coalitions conceivable. They don't seem to have much of a difference in their approach to people who were thrown out of Kashmir 36 years ago. This is the reality check number 2. Deal with it. Not one naya paisa compensation, not one inquiry. When you see an accident on a highway or a train accident where, say, a dozen odd people are casualty, a magisterial inquiry happens to find out whether it was human error or was it a malfunctioning of the machine or was it a terror incident or was it a natural calamity or whatever else. You try and establish. Lakhs of people evaporate out of the valley. Till date, there is no formal inquiry. What happened? There are claims and counterclaims, all in the realm of social discourse. Accusations. Some say Jagmohan, the then governor, for barely 5.5 months, from 18th of January to 22nd of June, orchestrated it. This comes from the mouths of those who've been chief ministers of the state. They're supposed to be the mainstream politicians. And it is echoed by very senior journalists, academics, sociologists. There is no acknowledgement. Because there's no inquiry, there's no white paper. There's no consensus on this across so many governments and so many politicians. And I dare say there actually is a consensus to not name it for what it is. Deal with it. There seems to be a bipartisan consensus on the fact that this needs to be shoved under the carpet and not acknowledged for what it is. So if there is no acknowledgement of what I think is the biggest colossal tragedy of independent India, then where is the justice? Where is the punishment? Not one criminal has been hanged for it. Forget hanging, there are no charges pressed, there's no prosecution, there are no cases going on. And that includes the cold-blooded, point-blank murder of squadron leader Ravi Khanna and his 3 colleagues, unarmed, waiting for their staff bus. If ordinary civilian lives are not of much value, then I think serving squadron leader of an Indian Air Force and his surviving widow need a modicum of justice. That case for the past 36 years is dragging on in a Tada court in Jammu. And Yasin Malik, the prime accused, bragged about killing him in a program called The Hard Talk, interviewed by Tim Sebastian, where he coaxed this out of him. After 3 times when he says, so you murdered them, so you killed them, so you killed uniformed officers, he says, yes, they were the symbol of Indian state. And we are freedom fighters. So what to talk of thousands who lost their lives, who were killed, who were raped, who were abducted, their homes looted, their temples desecrated, their businesses destroyed. No compensation, no justice. I and my organization moved to the Supreme Court thrice. Our petition was not even admitted. 3 Chief Justices, and I'll never forget to name them every time I have an opportunity. Justice J.S. Kehar, CGI. Justice Deepak Mishra, CGI. Justice Chandrachud, CGI. And he was part of all the 3 benches. Deal with it. This is the Supreme Court that opens up past midnight to save convicted terrorists from gallows. This is the Supreme Court that appoints judges to run BCCI, to give priority to bar dancers of Mumbai. And lectures everyone about how squeaky clean they are in their conduct. Forces an apology out of NCERT. Sitting Supreme Court judges write to President about so-and-so judge not being appointed despite being cleared by the collegium. They're outraged on all kinds of things. 4 judges addressed a press conference saying the registrar in the Supreme Court is not doing a kosher thing of pushing cases towards them. But on this issue, we find a strange consensus. There's no outrage. There's no conscience pricked. And of course, if there is no acknowledgement, there is no justice, of course. Where is the reversal of it? On the contrary, we are told, now you are settled, your children have found careers, you are happy and comfortable. Would you return? Imagine, the onus is on us. Are the conditions right to return? Why do you ask? Did you ask us, will you flee? Did we ask you, should we flee? When the conditions were bad, we fled for our lives. When we saw people dying around us, we didn't have to seek your permission. And today also, we don't need anybody's permission to go home if we can, to go back to our lands, our homes. So this is the level of perversion on this discourse. Now the third reality check. The fight is going on, of course. We will not cease. The third reality check is Kashmir is getting replicated across country because you did not punish what happened 36 years ago, you've actually rolled out an invitation for it to spread. It is like cancer metastasizing, sprouting from all possible corners. In fact, it's become some kind of an example. You shove a mic into somebody's face in, say, Kairana or Sambhal or Murshidabad or Barpeta or Bhadrak in Orissa or Tonk in Rajasthan or Malegaon in Maharashtra or Malappuram in Kerala or Ambur in Tamil Nadu. They will say the conditions here are like Kashmir, and they are not alluding to the natural beauty. Kashmir has become a metaphor, thanks to how we've handled the original Kashmir. And this brings me to our late CDS, General Bipin Rawat's very insightful observation that we have a 2.5 front challenge. That was then. That 0.5 has become 1, and that 2 has become 3 on your eastern flank. And this 0.5 to 1 journey remains unacknowledged. Just as what happened in Kashmir remains unacknowledged, this 0.5 to 0.1 remains unacknowledged. Why do I say this? I see a lot of defense and security related seminars. I participate in some. I read papers. I go through various scenarios being built. And I hear a lot about how we are modernizing our armed forces, inducting newer technologies, buying sophisticated, expensive hardware, training our soldiers differently. I see a lot of talk about budgets going up. That is about defending borders. How do we refer to this 0.5 to 0.1 journey? Do we ever acknowledge that we have a demographic time bomb which will implode us from within and endanger security and lay waste every initiative that we take for defending the borders? The word demography just doesn't occur in the threats that we line up, challenges that we list facing us. And it's not because we don't know about it. Perhaps we are ashamed or even hesitant to talk about it. I don't know what kind of political correctness paralyzes us to even mention it. Forget detail it. I don't see any scenarios being built on this line, much less have a policy, much less have a program to do something about it, much less see the implementation of it on the ground. It's still in the realm of hush-hush speculation. And we've lost much time. So these are the 3 reality checks I wanted to share with you. Kashmir, unattended and unaddressed, is merrily replicating. And the 0.5 to 0.1 front, growing further to 1.5 or 2 as the time progresses, will become unaddressable if we lose more time. Sorry for this grim scenario painting, but I thought it was necessary. Thank you for your patience. Jai Hind.
Amity has been ranked amongst the top 3% universities globally, a testimony to Amity's globally benchmarked quality.
Our pure Shahi Paneer Masala. Delicious, healthy, every day.
रानी, इस घर में कुछ है जो टूटता नहीं।
ये पिलर कभी नहीं टूटेगा। रुंगटा स्टील टीएमटी से बना।
रुंगटा नहीं तो घर स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं। रुंगटा स्टील टीएमटी बार एकदम सॉलिड।
U.S. Central Command began Operation Epic Fury at the President's direction. The goal was to dismantle Iran's security structure and remove imminent threats. Targets include command centers, missile facilities, air defenses, and key military infrastructure. From stealth bombers to missile defense systems, the U.S. deployed air, naval, and surveillance power across the region.
These actions are right and they are necessary to ensure that Americans will never have to face a radical, bloodthirsty terrorist regime armed with nuclear weapons and lots of threats. For almost 50 years, these wicked extremists have been attacking the United States while chanting the slogan, "Death to America" or "Death to Israel" or both. They are the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. We are the world's greatest and most powerful nation, so we can do something about what they do. These intolerable threats will not continue any longer. I once again urge the Revolutionary Guard, the Iranian military, police, to lay down your arms and receive full immunity or face certain death. It will be certain death. Won't be pretty. I call upon all Iranian patriots who yearn for freedom to seize this moment, to be brave, be bold, be heroic.
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
सैंडविच, लस्सी और छाछ और
हर घूंट में चमकी चाट। अब बताओ स्वाद आया? आया।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चमकी चाट।
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी।
आर प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला।
يا نعش يشيل الشيعة سرتنا طاح المرتفع.
Asia's largest news headquarters, setting the agenda for Bharat. You're watching Republic.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Live and Breaking on Republic TV with me, Ishta Mitra. Rolling coverage on the war in West Asia continues, and I'm now being joined by my colleague Kesu Bhardwaj.
In fact, we're also getting you all the details of how the US is completely amping up all its military efforts in West Asia as the war is snowballing. But first, here's a check on your headlines for the hour. Take a look.
US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent now says that in fact
tonight's bombing campaign will be the largest that there is against Iran.
US intensifies warship buildup amid war in West Asia. Reports now suggest the US will be sending its third aircraft carrier to Middle East. India issues first statement on IRIS 11 docked at Kochi port. Jaishankar now says India decided to help on humanitarian grounds. Iranian ship IRIS 11 docked in Kochi. India gave safe harbour to Lavan on March 4th. Fake narrative of India not coming to aid IRIS Dana busted. Dana never sought safe harbour from New Delhi. Iran tweets picture of a ballistic missile resembling nuclear bomb, warns consequences will make regime desperate. TTP continues its attacks on Pakistani forces, targeting 7 districts in the last 24 hours. All right, viewers, our top focus at this hour. In a major update coming to life from Middle East, reports now suggest that US is preparing to send its third aircraft carrier, USS George H.W. Bush, to Middle East. Now, as per reports, after 2 carriers, USS Abraham Lincoln and USS Gerald R. Ford, US is now likely to send its third aircraft carrier. Remember, this comes after US Treasury Secretary stated few hours back that tonight's bombing campaign will be the largest in Iran and will inflict the greatest damage on Iran's missile platforms.
In fact, viewers, now let's also take a quick look at what each of these aircraft carriers are capable of. Now, remember, as the war in West Asia is snowballing, let's take a look at how the US is preparing. Now, US has come in as an ally for Israel, but we're also not just looking at USS Abraham Lincoln or USS Gerald R. Ford. We're in fact eyeing another third aircraft carrier to be deployed in the waters. Now, in fact, we're also talking about the fact that already USS Gerald R. Ford, we know that it is the largest aircraft carrier in the world, and even then a third one is being deployed. Now, the first one that's already there is USS Abraham Lincoln, about 1,092-foot long aircraft carrier. It can travel at a speed of over 30 knots, and 30 knots for a ship in the waters is very, very high speed, and it can also sustain long-term operations, so great battery life. We have a crew of over 5,600 people on the carrier itself. Now, remember, this is a fully armed carrier, and all of these crew members are going to be military personnel. In fact, it's also equipped with advanced radar systems and anti-missile defense. So it can not just thwart missile attacks that come on USS Abraham Lincoln, but it can also use radar systems to target enemy missiles, air missiles, or even their aircraft. And it's also equipped with torpedo decoy systems, which is no surprise for a ship of that capacity. Torpedo is one of the most lethal weaponry or armament that remains put in water. And the last thing, it houses stealth fighter jets. Now we're talking about fighter jets that do not make any sound, talking about fighter jets that actually travel